The old gods are nameless deities of stream, forest, and stone currently worshipped only by the Starks and other houses in the north and beyond the wall by free folk, while in the other 6 kingdoms, they are still worshipped only by House Blackwood. They are so named the Old Gods because the faith of the 7, the new gods, replaced them in all but the north of Westeros. They were once the main religion worshipped across all Westeros by the children of the forest, and eventually by the first men, sometime after signing the pact. Since the arrival of the Undulls who brought with them their own religion, the old gods are no longer dominantly worshipped in the south of Westeros. Though the 2 religions have coexisted for more than 6,000 years, there is still tension between the most devout adherents of the 2 faiths. The old gods were originally worshipped by the children of the forest, the non-human original inhabitants of Westeros, for thousands of years before the arrival of the first men from the east 12,000 years ago. It was the children of the forest who carved the faces into weirwood trees. The children and their priests, the Greenseers, successfully fought the first men to a standstill, and they signed a pact of mutual peace and cooperation. It gave the deep forests to the children, but all other land in Westeros to the first men, who promised never to cut down the sacred weirwood trees again. Over the following 4,000 years, the first men came to worship the old gods as well. After the war against the White Walkers 8,000 years ago, the children gradually declined throughout Westeros. The worship of the old gods remained strong among the first men in Westeros until the coming of the Undulls 6,000 years ago, who brought the faith of the 7 with them from the east. The Undulls slaughtered the children of the forest, viewing their magic as an abomination before the 7. The Undulls cut down the weirwood trees in the south, which were sacred to the old gods. The faith supplanted the worship of the old gods in most lands south of the Neck, but it remained strong in the north, where the first men were able to halt the Undulls' advance. After centuries of religious wars and strife, the 2 religions settled into a, sometimes uneasy, coexistence. In post-conquest Westeros, there is little strife between the faiths per se, but there is some tension, since some important cultural institutions, namely knighthood and by extension the Kingsguard, presuppose faith in the 7 and are by technicality barred to followers of the old gods. This can lead to some class conflict, as knights are considered higher in the social order than equally combat-capable men who are not. The wildlings also worship the old gods, like their distant cousins in the north. Even in the lands of House Stark, there are a few followers of the faith of the 7, often southern noblewomen who come to the north to secure marriage alliances. Beyond the wall, however, the old gods are the only gods. The religion believes in innumerable and unnamed nature gods, the spirits of each tree, each rock, and each stream. Worshippers of the old gods do not have elaborate ceremonies, holy texts, hierarchies of priests, or large structures of worship like followers of the faith of the 7. Instead, they practice quiet contemplation in godswoods, small areas of forest which have been enclosed within a castle's walls. Worship in a godswood is centered on heart trees, which are great weirwood trees with a face carved into the bark. Weirwoods are considered sacred in the religion, and heart trees are the closest thing to a shrine that it possesses. Oaths and promises sworn in front of a heart tree are considered binding. The only ceremony of their religion we have seen is the ceremony of marriage, during which the bride is brought before the weirwood tree in the godswood to beg the blessing of the gods for her marriage. The wildlings believe that the gods can be heard in the sounds of nature, such as the wind, and that they can see through the eyes of the weirwood trees. So long as the trees remain in the land, the gods have power. They also believe that the gods hear their prayers and that they answer by sending the wind or through other means. The faith of the old gods is personal and less structured than other religions, though some basic social violations are prescribed by it, such as kinslaying, incest, and bastardy. It also upholds the laws of hospitality, far more so than any other religion. Unlike their newer counterparts, the faith of the 7, the old gods demand very little from their followers. In the words of Ned Stark to his wife Catelyn, a follower of the 7, it's her gods with all the rules. The old gods are based on animism and traditional pagan beliefs of Wicca and various other Celtic systems and Norse systems, melted into one construct. They are nameless and numerous. The faith of the 7, or simply the faith, is the main religion of the 7 kingdoms. It is little practiced beyond its borders. The faith of the 7 is dominant in the south of Westeros. The only regions where it is not the majority religion are the north, where worship of the old gods remains strong, and on the Iron Islands, where the local religion of the drowned god is most widespread. The faith worships the seven who are one, a single deity with 7 aspects or faces. For the less educated in Westeros, this concept is often difficult to grasp, leading to the common belief that there are indeed 7 different gods. The number 7 is considered holy. The faith holds that there is one God who has 7 faces or aspects: the father, the mother, the maiden, the crone, the warrior, the smith, and the stranger. Each aspect represents one part of life or existence. Asterisk the father represents divine justice and judges the souls of the dead. Asterisk the mother represents mercy, peace, fertility, and childbirth. She is sometimes referred to as the strength of women. Asterisk the maiden represents purity, innocence, love, and beauty. Asterisk the crone represents wisdom and foresight. She is represented carrying a lantern. Asterisk the warrior represents strength and courage in battle. Asterisk the smith represents creation and craftsmanship. Asterisk the stranger represents death and the unknown. It is rarely prayed to. The stranger is depicted as neither male nor female, thus the number of male and female aspects within the godhead is equal. 3 males, father, warrior, smith; 3 females, maiden, mother, crone; and 1 who is neither. Unlike the other aspects which are represented as human figures in artwork, because the stranger represents the unknown, it is often portrayed in a wide variety of forms, often frightening. Sometimes it is represented as a skeletal figure, or a non-human creature possessing various animalistic features. Due to its 7 aspects, the deity is often referred to as the 7-faced god, or the god of 7, but most frequently as simply the 7. The 7 are also referred to as the new gods, or new god, in contrast with the old gods of the forest worshipped by the first men before the invasion of the Undals. Due to the 7-in-1 nature of the deity, the number 7 is sacred in the religion, with symbolism involving the number 7 featuring heavily in its belief system. Newborn babies are anointed with 7 oils and named in the light of the 7 the day they are born. In death, the faith believes that there are 7 heavens and 7 hells. The exclaimed curse, 7 hells, is commonly heard in Westeros. The 7-pointed star is the most prominent symbol of the faith, representing how each of the 7 aspects is one facet of a unified whole. This is used as an allegory to explain the complex theological concept of a single god composed of 7 persons. Just as the star has 7 points, but all points are part of the same star, so too is there only one deity, which appears to men in 7 different ways. The faith originated 6,000 years before the War of the 5 Kings in the continent of Essos, specifically in Andalos where, according to legend, the god of 7 manifested before the Undal people. Afterward, the Undals sailed west, and their invasion of Westeros began. Some of the Undal warriors carved the 7-pointed star, the symbol of their religion, into their flesh to demonstrate their devotion. Bearing weapons made of steel, the Undals conquered the first men and slaughtered the children of the forest, viewing their magic as an abomination before the 7. The Undals burned down most of the weirwood trees in the south, which are considered sacred in the worship of the old gods. Soon all the kingdoms of the first men, with the exception of the kingdom of the north, fell to the invaders, who intermingled with some of the local dynasties, such as House Gardener, or replaced them altogether, as was the case of mountain kings of the Vale. As the Undals asserted their dominance over all regions south of the Neck, they asserted their religion over the first men they conquered, replacing the worship of the old gods almost entirely throughout the southern kingdoms of Westeros. Thus the Undals' faith of the 7 became the dominant religion on the entire continent, except for in the north and the Iron Islands. Prior to the rule of House Targaryen, the faith had the right to dispense justice, conduct inquests and trials, and pass judgment over all echelons of society, including kings. This justice was enforced by the faith militant. However, this right was taken away from it by the Targaryen kings, and, whilst the faith remained an important part of Westerosi customs, they grew corrupt and their practices became little more than a facade. Unlike the old gods, whose worshippers in the north are looked down upon by members of the faith of the 7 as savages who worship multiple gods, the faith is based on a number of holy texts and complex social rules. The central holy text of the religion is the seven-pointed star. Temples of the faith are seven-sided buildings known as septs, with each wall dedicated to one of the seven aspects. Followers of the faith gather in septs for group prayer, which frequently involves singing hymns of praise to the seven. One such hymn dedicated to the mother is the Mother's Hymn. There are also monasteries, known as septries, where smaller numbers of worshippers gather who have taken a monastic oath. Septries often have vows of silence or other requirements, and are places of quiet contemplation. Along with the old gods, the faith shares several basic social rules against incest, kinslaying, and bastardy. The faith of the seven, along with all major religions, also upholds the laws of hospitality, which hold sacred the good behavior of a guest and host towards each other. Only members of House Targaryen are permitted to practice incest in order to keep the bloodline pure. After the faith was forced to turn a blind eye towards the incest after the faith militant uprising. Unlike the faith of the old gods, which lacks elaborate ceremonies, weddings under the auspices of the faith of the seven are elaborate and highly ritualized. These ceremonies typically take place inside of a sept and are presided over by a septon. The bride and groom then join hands, which are tied together with a ribbon by the septon, who says, "In the sight of the seven, I hereby seal these two souls, binding them as one, for eternity." He then instructs them to look upon one another and say the words. At this point, the bride and groom turn to face each other or recite the following vow in unison. Father, smith, warrior, mother, maiden, crone, stranger. I am his/hers and she/he is mine from this day until the end of my days. Unlike the worship of the old gods, the faith of the seven has an organized clergy with a complex internal hierarchy. Both men and women can be priests of the seven. Male priests are known as septons and female priests as septas. The head of the faith is known as the High Septon, who resides at the headquarters of the faith of the seven. The faith of the seven is based on the medieval Catholic Church, although it borrows other elements as well. The faith's central doctrine of one God with seven aspects is partly based on the Christian Trinity. One God in the divine persons of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. In the faith of the seven, God has seven aspects: three males, the Father, the Smith, and the Warrior; three females, the Mother, the Maiden, and the Crone, and the Stranger who represents death. The faith militant, the faith's military order, is loosely based on crusading orders such as the Knights Templar and Knights Hospitaller. The drowned god is the deity worshipped on the Iron Islands. Together with the North, where the worship of the old gods remains strong, the Iron Islands are one of the few regions of Westeros not abiding by the main religion of the Seven Kingdoms, the faith of the seven. Depictions of the drowned god, such as statues, are sometimes made by assembling pieces of driftwood into a vaguely humanoid shape with upraised arms, or by finding a single piece of driftwood which somewhat resembles a humanoid shape. The belief system of the drowned god justifies the ironborn practices of piracy and raiding. Followers of the drowned god believe that he brought fire from the sea, and that he created the ironborn to reave, raid, and pillage. Much of the religion centers around maritime skills and martial ability. It is not simply praiseworthy to kill enemies in battle, it is considered a pious act. A youth in the Iron Islands is not considered a man until he has killed his first enemy. The religion also encourages paying the iron price instead of the gold price, meaning that it is better not to pay or trade for possessions, but to take them by force from the hands of dead enemies. To outsiders, the drowned god religion may seem like a thinly veiled justification for pillaging and plundering, but the Ironborn themselves take their religion very seriously and actually have a fairly well-developed cosmology and belief system surrounding it. Within this belief system, the drowned god is locked in an eternal struggle against the storm god. The drowned god's halls are located beneath the ocean, while the storm god lives in a castle in the sky with his thunderclouds. The storm god is constantly trying to send storms to dash ironborn ships against rocks. Resurrection figures prominently in the religion, specifically being revived after drowning. The drowned god himself is said to have drowned in the sea for the sake of the ironborn, but returned to life harder and stronger. Drowning is also employed as a method of sacrificing captured enemies to the drowned god. Due to their belief, The Ironborn do not fear drowning in the sea. Godly Ironborn, that is, fearless raiders, who drown are believed to be taken to the drowned gods' watery halls, where they will feast on fish and be tended by mermaids for eternity. Thus, whenever a reaver dies, the Ironborn say that the drowned god is in need of a strong oarsman. The common prayer exchanged by followers of the drowned god states, "What is dead may never die," with the usual response being an echo of the same line. If one person begins this prayer, others are usually expected to join in. The prayer involves clutching the right hand in a fist over the heart. Priests of the drowned god are called drowned men. They anoint devotees using seawater, which is considered holy water in the religion. Infants are ceremonially drowned during a baptism rite by being briefly submerged in seawater or by a priest pouring seawater over their head. Adults may also be anointed with seawater in this fashion when receiving a blessing from one of the drowned men. Another type of drowning ceremony, used to anoint kings of the Iron Islands, involves the drowned man actually drowning someone, holding them under the water until they stop breathing. They are then dragged ashore, where they begin to breathe again. Unlike the faith of the Seven or the worship of the Lord of Light, the drowned god religion appears to be rather sexist. Ironborn men are expected to raid, plunder, kill, and command ships, but it is frowned upon for Ironborn women to do any of these things. While the faith of the Seven and the Lord of Light have priestesses, and the old gods simply have no clergy at all, the drowned god's priesthood is all male. It is thus considered quite unusual that Yara Greyjoy, as a young woman, has risen to command her own ship and led men on raids. Further, it is a testament to her popularity with the Ironborn men she commands that they would willingly follow her, as she would have had to work even harder and be a very capable commander to earn the respect of such men. Despite being a very devout and pious follower of the drowned god, even Balon Greyjoy himself is proud of and accepts Yara's activities, which are decidedly unorthodox for a woman in his culture. In the Iron Islands, it is common to execute criminals by laying them on their back on the beach at low tide, with their arms and legs chained to 4 stakes, so they can see their death slowly creeping toward them a few inches at a time as the tide comes in, an offering to the drowned god. As with other major religions in Westeros, the drowned god religion has several basic social rules against incest, kinslaying, and bastardy. It also upholds the laws of hospitality, which holds sacred the good behavior of a guest and host towards each other. Author George R. R. Martin has said that the Ironborn are loosely inspired by Vikings, and thus the drowned god religion bears similarities to Norse myths. For example, godly Ironborn who die are at sea are said to feast in the drowned god's halls under the ocean, which is analogous to the Viking belief that great warriors will feast in Valhalla when they die in battle. The Lord of Light, also known as the Red God, Lawler, the Heart of Fire, and the God of Flame and Shadow, is a deity widely worshipped on the continent of Essos. The Lord of Light has been described as a fire god, and its clergy fire priests, as his worship centers around fire and light. The faith of the Lord of Light is the majority religion in several of the free cities, most notably Bravos, Myr, Lys, and Volantis, and extends to Ashai in the distant east. Worship of the Lord of Light is almost unheard of in Westeros. The religion of the Lord of Light is centered on belief in the existence of 2 deities, in the words of Melisandre, a god of light and love and joy, and a god of darkness, evil and fear, eternally at war. The Lord of Light is the god of fire, which provides light, heat, and life, and struggles against darkness, cold, and death, represented by an opposing deity, the Great Other. Due to the dualistic worldview of this religion, its more fanatical followers believe the Lord of Light is the one true God, and all other gods from other religions, the old gods, the Seven, the drowned god, etc., are demons and false idols that must be cast down and burned. The Lord of Light's worship involves the idolization of fire and light. Shadows are important too, as they are created by light. The religion is very focused on prophecy and on ecstatic visions that are received through communion with the flames. Melisandre claims to receive visions about the future from the Lord of Light by staring into fires. Unlike the religions of the old gods in the north or the drowned god of the Iron Islands, the faith of the Lord of Light is stated to possess several holy texts, similar to the faith of the Seven. While the faith of the seven believes in 7 heavens and 7 hells, this religion states that the current world that everyone lives in now is considered to be hell, the only hell, but the Lord of Light will save his faithful adherents from this darkness. The followers of the Lord of Light also believe in the coming of a chosen warrior to combat the coming darkness, the prince that was promised, who was prophesied to be reborn amidst smoke and salt, and wield the sword Lightbringer. Most of the worship practices of the Lord of Light involve fire. This can range from simple bonfires to some extreme cases advocating the sacrifice of non-believers by immolation. The symbol of the Lord of Light is a fiery heart. The religion is led by the Red Priests, though both men and women can join the priesthood. In temples of the Lord of Light, Red Priests conduct bonfires and sing prayers each night, beseeching the Lord of Light to bring back the dawn. The common prayer of the followers of the Lord of Light begins, "The night is dark and full of terrors," followed by the response line, "Lord, cast your light upon us." When interacting with each other, Red Priests tend to speak High Valyrian and greet each other with the traditional Valyrian exchange Vala Morgulis/Vala Dohiris, although this probably has more to do with the cultural background of most Red Priests than the religion itself. The Lord of Light religion is probably the most widespread religion in Essos, spanning from the free cities in the west to Ashai in the distant east. So far in the books, it isn't clear if the Lord of Light religion is controlled by one universal organization across the entire world, the way the faith of the seven is run by the hierarchy of the most devout and the High Septon, though there is a high priest by the name of Benero at the temple in Volantis. There are clear leaders of the Lord of Light temples for each free city, such as Volantis, but the relationship between the temples in Volantis, Lys, or Ashai is uncertain. Different denominations have not been stated to exist, but if Melisandre is any indication, adherents in Ashai are much more strict than worshippers in the free cities. Melisandre often advocates human sacrifice through immolation, but people from the free cities, such as Thuras of Myr, advocate a kinder and gentler version, stressing that the Lord of Light is a loving God. According to George R.R. Martin, the Lawler religion is strongly influenced by the real-life religions of Zoroastrianism and Catharism. The central element at Boros is that it is a ditheistic religion. There is one true, good God, locked in eternal combat with an evil deity. As part of this dualism, Lawler, who embodies light, fire, and heat, is opposed on the level of primordial forces by the Great Other, who embodies cold and darkness. Zoroastrianism may have also influenced several later dualistic belief systems, such as Gnosticism, Manichaeism, and Catharism, which the Lawler religion also resembles in some respects. The many-faced god, also known as the god of death or simply death, is a deity worshipped by the mysterious cult of assassins known as the Faceless Men, who are headquartered in the free city of Bravus. They believe that, through their assassinations, they do his work. The Faceless Men worship death, whom they believe is the only God. The cult is actually a syncretic religion. Its followers believe that death is unknowingly worshipped by devotees of all the religions in the world, simply under different names. Every religion either has a god of death in polytheistic faiths, or has a god with dominion over death in monotheistic faiths. The Faceless Men believe that all of these gods are simply different aspects, or faces, through which death has revealed himself to humanity. Hence, they formally refer to their deity as the many-faced God. There is no one symbol of the many-faced God, simply the icons used to represent death gods in other religions. The Temple of the Faceless Men in Bravos, known as the House of Black and White due to the color of its doors, contains a large public sanctuary with statues of death gods from all other religions displayed equally. Asterisk the stranger from the faith of the seven. Asterisk a carved weirwood heart tree face for the old gods. Asterisk a humanoid form made of driftwood for the drowned god. Asterisk the fiery heart of the Lord of Light. Asterisk the black goat. Asterisk the weeping lady of Lys. Asterisk the lion of night. Icons from lesser religions and cults are also honored in the House of Black and White, including the Hooded Wayfarer, Bacalin the Pale Child, the Moon Pale Maiden, the Merlin King, and many others. The Faceless Men see death as a gift from the many-faced God to end human suffering, either to euthanize the sick or bereaved who can no longer stand the suffering of living, or as a gift to end the lives of those who are causing suffering to others. As a result, these assassins view themselves as death's servants, strictly bound to his service. In their at times inscrutable beliefs, they feel that they are only helping to carry out death's will, and cannot choose their own targets. For personal reasons, such as revenge, they can only target those whom death has selected, the targets of assassination contracts they have accepted. The faceless men practice extreme self-abnegation, each devotee believing that they are no one, with no personal desires, and living only to serve the many-faced God. Faceless men are also known to use the high Valyrian phrases. The faceless men have no known prayers or worship services, only their actions, by committing assassinations. Their only clergy are the faceless men themselves, above lower-ranking acolytes and novices serving in the temple. The House of Black and White's public sanctum is also open to any who are in pain and seek death. They are given a drink of water from a poisoned cistern, which grants them a gentle and painless death. In return, the faceless men collect their corpses to use their faces as disguises by using their magical shape-shifting abilities with them. The death-worshipping cult of the faceless men and the many-faced god actually originated in Valyria, in the vast slave mines under the 14 Flames. The thousands of slaves from 100 different lands face death on a daily basis, and over time, the belief developed among some of them that while they came from many different lands and followed many different religions, all of these religions were fundamentally the same, because they all worshipped death in some fashion. In time, this turned into a syncretic belief system worshipping death as the many-faced god. They started out by giving the gift of death to slaves who were suffering particularly horribly in the mines, to ease their pain, and in time, they learned to surreptitiously give the gift to some of their Valyrian masters as well, becoming skilled assassins. Many centuries later, after Valyria was destroyed, the surviving faceless men relocated to Bravos, which was founded by ex-slaves who had escaped from Valyria. The Bravosi welcomed them because they had both formed in opposition to the Valyrians, and in Bravos the faceless men established a firm headquarters where they continued to operate for the next 4 centuries. The Great Stallion is a horse god worshipped by the Dothraki, mirroring the importance of horses in that culture. The Dothraki believe that the first human in the world emerged from the womb of the World Lake near V's Duthrak, while riding the first horse 1,000 years ago. The dating of this isn't plausible as, unknown to the Dothraki, the civilizations on Westeros, and in the Valyrian Freehold, have written histories dating back roughly 6,000 years. The religious beliefs of the Dothraki are complex, as there is little division in Dothraki society between what in other cultures might be called religion and custom. The Dothraki acknowledge the existence of other supernatural beings or spirits besides the Great Stallion, but it would be incorrect to describe them as polytheistic. Rather, Dothraki religious beliefs are best described as henotheism, the belief in and worship of a single deity, the Great Stallion, but accepting the existence of other deities who may or may not be worshipped. These other deities may only have power in specific localities. For example, the Dothraki do not revere or worship the Great Shepherd, the deity of the Lazarene who live beyond the southern border of the Dothraki Sea. However, they do not deny that the Great Shepherd may exist. They just think its power is only strongest in Lazer, and even then, that the Great Stallion is assuredly a stronger god than the Great Shepherd in all times and places. This belief system is evidenced in the Dothraki language itself. As the Dothraki conceive it, every nation or people have their own idols or gods, but the Great Stallion is the best one, and the only one they pray to. By physically capturing or destroying the religious idols of another people's gods, they believe they are defeating those gods. The Dothraki believe that the stars in the night sky are the fiery Khalasar of the Great Stallion. They also believe that when they die, their soul will ride with their ancestors in the Nightlands, though only if their bodies are properly burned. Burning a Dothraki's body allows their ashes to rise up to the heavens, where their spirit will join the fiery Khalasar of the Great Stallion. In Dothraki belief, the moon is said to be a goddess and the wife of the sun, apparently part of the starry Khalasar of the Great Stallion. This also indicates that the Dothraki conceptualize the moon as female and the sun as male. Children are considered blessings from the Great Stallion. The Dothraki believe that a prophesied leader, the stallion who mounts the world, will one day unite all of the Dothraki into one Khalasar and conquer the world. The Mother of Mountains, a lone mountain located within sight of Vis Dothrak, is considered sacred in the Dothraki religion. The Dothraki are a very brave but also a very superstitious people, believing in any number of signs and omens. A Dothraki Khalasar will not go to war until the omens favor it, even if to all outside observers the time seems perfect to strike. Although they will honor agreements they have made, it's widely known that the Dothraki do things in their own time, waiting for favorable omens. The Dothraki religion does not include any restrictions on their lifestyle, nor do there seem to be rules against one Dothraki Khalasar fighting another and enslaving the survivors. A successful warrior and mounted raider is highly esteemed. The closest thing to a priesthood that the Dothraki have are the honored wise women known as the Dashkaleen, crones who are widows of deceased Kali. The Dashkaleen dwell in the only city of the Dothraki, Vis Dothrak, located deep within the Dothraki Sea. They conduct many religious rituals, interpret all manner of omens, and are held to possess great powers of prophecy. Carrying a sword or shedding blood within Vis Dothrak is considered sacrilege, though should the need arise, loopholes such as strangling or burning a man to death are permissible. The traditional Dothraki wedding ceremony is a day-long feast in which gifts are presented to the new couple. Displays of personal combats and duels to the death are common. A Dothraki wedding without at least 3 deaths is considered a dull affair. Because the Dothraki spend most of their time riding on the open plains, everything of importance in Dothraki culture is done outdoors under the sky. Thus, on their wedding night, a Dothraki couple rides away from the main camp to the open plains and consummate their marriage under the stars. The Dothraki traditionally burn their dead in funeral pyres so that their spirit may go on to the Nightlands. It is considered a terrible dishonor not to burn a dead Dothraki. Dothraki religion also rejects the employment of blood magic. For this reason, Magi are distrusted and hated by Dothraki. The Moonsingers are the priestesses of the Jogos Nai, the culture of mounted raiders that live in the plains north of Et and east of the massive Bone Mountains that divide them from the Dothraki to the west. They are also present in the free city of Bravos, because some of the escaped slaves from the Valyrian freehold that founded Bravos were Jogos Nai. The Bravosi still welcome all faiths in their city and has no one majority religion, but the Moonsinger religion is still quite revered and has more followers than any other single religion in the city, explaining why the Temple of the Moonsingers in Bravos is the largest temple in Bravos. The Jogos Nai have very different views about gender compared to people living in Westeros. Each band of the Jogos Nai is co-ruled by a Jot and a Moonsinger. The Jot is a war leader, in charge of external politics. The Moonsinger is a combination priestess/healer/judge, in charge of internal domestic affairs. If a woman wants to be a Jot, however, she must dress and live as a man, while if someone born a man wishes to be a Moonsinger, he must dress and live as a woman. It is very difficult for outsiders to even tell if a band's Moonsinger was born a man or a woman, as they are treated and referred to as women by everyone else in their band. This actually parallels the real-world practices of several indigenous peoples across the world, where men understood to have supernatural powers must live as women, or as both man and woman. Women having to assume male dress for a leadership or war role is less common, but certainly attested. The main novels do mention that the Moonsingers are a prominent religion in Bravos, but none have been met in the narrative. The Old Gods of Valyria were a pantheon of deities worshipped by the Valyrians and Essos throughout their vast empire, known as the Valyrian Freehold. Their religion was practiced for thousands of years within the Freehold, but was greatly diminished after the doom of Valyria destroyed their civilization. House Targaryen, a family of Valyrian nobles who survived by fleeing to Westeros, also later abandoned their gods when Aegon the Conqueror and his sisters converted to the faith of the Seven, largely as a political move. The Valyrian religion was polytheistic with a pantheon of several gods, including Balerion, Meraxes, Syrax, and Vagr. The clergy of the Valyrian religion consists of priests. It is unknown whether the title High Priest is held by the leader of the entire religion or a regional leader. One such high priest served at Dragonstone during the reign of Viserys. Valyrian weddings involve the bride and groom cutting their hands and lips with dragonglass and then mixing their blood, as well as marking Valyrian glyphs in blood on their foreheads. The Valyrian freehold was very tolerant of other religions, in the sense that so long as conquered peoples paid their taxes, the Valyrians didn't really care what gods they prayed to. The Valyrian religion was primarily followed by the Valyrians themselves, the Dragonlord families of Old Valyria, though they were disproportionately powerful in the society of the freehold. Given that the Valyrian freehold is loosely inspired by the real-life Roman Republic, this mirrors how the Romans actually tolerated local religions so long as they did not interfere with the operations of the Roman state. Some also speculate that the Dragonlords did this so no single religion would ever grow popular and powerful enough to start challenging their secular rule, or to unite widespread slave populations into open revolt. An even more extreme yet still plausible theory says that at the freehold's height, the Dragonlords considered themselves above any god, and therefore were tolerant simply because they didn't care. The Valyrian religion went nearly extinct after the doom of Valyria, but not entirely so. The only group confirmed to still follow the Valyrian religion are some of the aristocratic families of Volantis. This is another extension of their obsession with Volantis' status as the first and oldest of the free cities, founded as a colony by Valyria. As a result, they cling to whatever cultural trappings they can from the ancient Valyrians to advertise the belief that they are Valyria's successors, and should by rights one day conquer and unite all of the other free cities into a new freehold. The bearded priests of Norvos are the religious, political, and military leaders of the free city of Norvos. They serve as the clergy of Norvos' deity, but are most famous as warrior priests, skilled in combat. The name of the deity that the bearded priests worship is a secret, only revealed to initiates. It is forbidden to even write the name down, except as a series of initials. As a result, the bearded priests of Norvos is used to refer to both the organization and the religion they follow. The order began as religious dissidents in the Old Valyrian freehold, who several centuries before the Doom established Norvos as a colony at the northern fringes of the empire, because they wanted to remove themselves from the corruption of the other religions that the Valyrians tolerated within the freehold. In Norvos, they could rule as they saw fit and regulate all aspects of society according to their theocracy. The bearded priests are trained as warriors, specializing in their signature long axes. As with several other religions in Essos, unwanted young boys can be sold to the bearded priests to be raised as acolytes. These slave soldiers are used as guards to keep the peace in Norvos and protect the borders. The priests wear hair shirts and tanned hides, and practice ritual flagellation. The city's bells command the populace to scheduled prayers frequently each day. Only men can join the bearded priests, and once they do, they are forbidden to cut any of their hair. They groom their beards to be very large as a sign of this, and in fact, only the priests are allowed to grow beards. Free Norvashi men are not permitted to have beards, though they do grow very large, upswept mustaches. Free Norvashi women and slaves of both genders are not permitted to have any hair on their heads, and shave them entirely bald. It isn't clear if the hairstyles of the non-priests are another tenet of their religion, or a deeply held cultural tradition reflecting it. Norvashi noblewomen actually shave off all of their body hair, though when encountering peoples from other cultures they will wear wigs on their heads, because they understand that their baldness is considered unusual to outsiders. The black goat is a deity worshipped in the free city of Qohor. It started out as a cult of religious dissidents in the Valyrian freehold, who later founded Qohor as a religious colony, similar to how Norvos was founded by the bearded priests. Unlike the bearded priests of Norvos, however, the religion of the black goat has a rather unsavory reputation. The black goat requires daily blood sacrifice. The typical sacrifices are calves, bulls, and horses, but on high holy days condemned criminals are also sacrificed to the black goat, while in times of great danger, the nobles of the city will even sacrifice their children to the black goat to try to appease him to grant them safety. This ill repute may be what made its adherents leave Valyria. The black goat is regarded as an untrustworthy demon in the religion of the bearded priests, although this hasn't stopped Norvos and Qohor from joining forces when necessary. Great Shepherd. The Great Shepherd is the deity worshipped by the Lazarene, mirroring the importance of shepherding in Lazarene culture. The Great Shepherd or Lamb God is the deity of the peaceful Lazarene. Its worship is largely restricted to Lazar itself. Outside of Lazar, there is a temple of the Great Shepherd in Braavos. The worship of the Great Shepherd includes the presence of God's wives, such as the Magi Miri Maz Dur. In the religion of the Great Shepherd, all men are considered part of a single flock. Thus, healers devoted to this god will cure the injuries of any man, even conquering enemies. The Ghiscari religion is followed in the region of Slavers Bay on the southern coast of Essos. The ancient cities of Mirene, Yunkai, and Astapor were founded as colonies of the ancient Ghiscari Empire and still carry on some of its traditions, including religion. The religion is centered around an all-female clergy known as the Graces, who congregate in a temple of the Graces. Apparently, there is a single temple in each city. While it does center around priestesses known as Graces, who meet in a temple of the Graces in each city, it isn't clear if there is a widespread hierarchy uniting the religion across the region. Also, little has been stated about the deities that the religion worships, other than describing them as the gods of Guys, referring to Old Guys, the ancient capital of the old Ghiscari Empire. While the Ghiscari religion is favored by the aristocratic slave-trading families of the region, it is far from the only religion in Slavers Bay. Many religions can be found among the slave population, many of whom have been imported from disparate foreign lands, either recently or in generations past. What is known about the Ghiscari religion is as follows. Different suborders of Graces inhabit each temple, wearing variously colored robes to denote their functions. Blue Graces function as healers, both in the temples and on battlefields. Red Graces are cult prostitutes. The Green Grace is the High Priestess, and there is only one in each city. Pink Graces serve as personal attendants to the Green Grace. White Graces are often young girls who have not been assigned a specific duty yet, essentially novices. Purple Graces and Gold Graces also exist, but their functions have not been mentioned. The Great Pyramid of Mirene was constructed with 33 levels, because the number 33 is said to be sacred in the religion. The famous fighting pits found in the cities are also said to be part of the Ghiscari religion. Thank you very much for watching this video, and if you enjoyed, please leave a like and subscribe. Comment down below your thoughts. Thank you again and have a nice day.